Washington Journal continues.
We want to welcome back John Malcolm. He served as the Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the George W. Bush administration and is currently the director of the Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies at the Heritage Foundation here in Washington, D.C. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
This from the president just a short while ago. He is quoting Pete Hegseth on Fox and Friends. These are trumped up charges. He also tweeted, "What will happen to those seeking the unlawful impeachment in 50 Trump-type congressional districts? We will win big." So again, turning this into a political fight, which is what it is.
Yes, no, it certainly is. I don't typically respond to presidential tweets. The president marches to his own drummer in that regard. But look, the game is on, and it really is a game of high-stakes political poker, and we'll have to see who the winner in all of this is.
Does this constitute a high crime and misdemeanor?
Well, so it's not a phrase that is interpreted in the Constitution. It's not defined in the Constitution. It has been interpreted over the years to include gross abuses of practice. The impeachment process is not meant to settle political disputes. That's why we have elections. So in other countries, they have no confidence votes if you don't like the direction in which a leader is taking the country, and then they immediately remove somebody. It was proposed during the Constitutional Convention that maladministration of office be included among the impeachable offenses, and that was not included. But it is the House and the Senate that largely gets to define what constitutes a high crime and misdemeanor, and they typically will obviously count on blatantly illegal conduct, but also gross abuses of office.
Did Andrew Johnson deserve impeachment?
That's an interesting question. He survived by barely, by one vote. So he did a couple of things that were bad. One, at least by Congress's light, the other for the country's light. He was not impeached for basically trying to undo Reconstruction. That he perhaps could have been impeached for. What he was impeached for was violating a law called the Tenure of Office Act. That law at the time said that if the president wanted to remove an executive branch official, Congress had to approve it. And he said, nope, they're executive branch officials, I'm going to remove them, and he did, and that radically angered Congress. It turns out that history vindicated Andrew Johnson in the sense that the Supreme Court later on said, as a matter of constitutional law, that he was right and that a president could remove an executive branch official without having to get the approval of Congress.
Richard Nixon was not impeached, but most certainly would have been impeached. Did he merit impeachment?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that certainly appears to be what history has decided. So the House of Representatives had passed resolutions of articles of impeachment, and they were sent to the full House floor. And then a number of senators, probably from both sides of the political aisle, certainly Republicans, came to the White House and said, look, Mr. President, the votes are there to impeach you, and the votes are there in the Senate to remove you from office. And he chose discretion as a better part of valor and chose to resign.
What about Bill Clinton?
Well, so Bill Clinton did not resign, and he was impeached, the second president to be impeached. The trial went to the Senate, and he was charged under the Articles of Impeachment with obstructing justice and committing perjury. Clearly, the country did not want to see President Clinton removed. They thought that, arguably lying under oath about a private affair with Monica Lewinsky was not sufficiently egregious to warrant his removal, even though it is, in fact, a crime. The obstruction of justice article, it takes 2/3 of the senators to actually convict somebody, so 67 senators. I think there were only 45 votes to throw him out of office on the obstruction article, and it was evenly divided, I believe, 50-50 on the perjury charge, but well short of the 67 votes. And the Republicans took it on the chin in the next election cycle because the country believed that the Republicans had overreached by impeaching him in the first place.
We will get to your calls in just a moment, but let's go to the whistleblower complaint involving the president. Quote, "This interference includes, among other things, pressuring a foreign country to investigate one of the president's main domestic political rivals. The president's personal lawyer, Mr. Rudy Giuliani, is a central figure in this effort. Attorney General Barr appears to be involved as well." That from the whistleblower report.
Yeah, look, I don't know where the facts are going to lead. Several things about the whistleblower report. This is clearly a very intelligent person who knows something about the intelligence community, but the whistleblower says, quite frankly, that he or she has no firsthand knowledge of what happened. And at least one significant respect. It's not an exact transcript, but the memorandum of the telephone call between President Trump and President Zelensky does not back up the whistleblower complaint. There was no reference to the $391 in military aid that had been approved to the Congress, so there was no explicit or implicit threat to withhold those funds. But, we'll see where this all goes. The president, frankly, should leave the investigation of corruption charges to the Department of Justice and should leave to his campaign the business of opposition research. But, we're now down this path of impeachment, and it only takes a majority in the House of Representatives to impeach a president, and the Democrats certainly control the majority of the House.
And this from a new ABC poll released today. 63% of voters in the survey saying the president asking Ukraine to probe Biden is, quote, a serious problem.
Well, I think it was a serious misjudgment, and it may end up posing a problem for him. Clearly now there is going to be an investigation. I think 6 committees are now going to focus on this issue, and the only people I think who are really, really happy about this are white-collar criminal defense lawyers in Washington, D.C.
There's been a lot of speculation about Vice President Joe Biden and what he may or may not have done in 2016 and the role of his son. Some saying it's optics, some saying that he forced the then prosecutor to stop an investigation into an oil company, although prosecutors at the time say that they were not investigating that oil company. So what exactly happened? What do you know?
Well, there are certain things that are clear, which is that there was an energy company, I believe it still exists, called Burisma Holdings that operates in the Ukraine. At some point, the founder of that company was connected to the former president of the Ukraine, the Russian puppet Yanukovych, and at some point the company was investigated. There is also no question that Hunter Biden, I believe in 2014, was asked to serve on the board of directors of that company. So far as I know, he had no real experience in the energy field, and he was being paid $50,000 a month for the privilege of serving on the board of that company. It is also quite clear that at one point Congress approved $1 billion in loan guarantees to the Ukrainian government, that Joe Biden went to Kiev, and he's said this on a videotape, said, I'm leaving in about 6 hours, and if within the next 6 hours you do not fire the lead prosecutor, a man named Shokin, you're not going to get the $1 billion. And they did. Other than that, there is a lot that is unknown. Joe Biden has said that he never talked to Hunter Biden about his business affairs, and both Shokin and his successor, a guy named Lutsenko, have given various statements. At one point they said, yes, we were investigating Burisma Holdings, and Joe Biden attempted to interfere with that investigation. And at other points, both of them have said, nope, we weren't really investigating the company, and the Bidens did nothing wrong. So, we'll find out in the days ahead, I suppose, what happened with respect to that.